Welcome to another episode of So Random and Weird Pod. I'm Sarah,
And I'm Sheena.
and I'm going to be going over a topic that I love that I've wanted to do, and since I had a random and I could pick whatever I wanted, I was so excited. I have chosen the Brat Pack,
Oh,
iconic, iconic of our time. Um, I wanted to do something a little lighter. I loved your piece last week, but, it
it
was
was
dark
heavy.
a little dark and heavy. Um, and with the news and everything, yeah, just everything is just so dark right now. You know what? I thought about doing a true crime, and I was like, "I don't know if I wanna do that again." I think I wanna lighten it up a little bit, um, and just do something that makes me happy. It's like a feel-good happy thing. And, I thought pop culture. I love pop culture, and I wanna do the Brat Pack. It was huge. They were huge.
So we'll get
And
2 pop cultures in a row,
uh-huh. Yep.
which is
So,
good.
yeah, I mean, I debate it. I really did. But, anyway. Um, so the Brat Pack, I mean, even though we were born in the '80s, we were not of the age that the actors were. I mean, they were, in their early 20s when they were making these movies, late teens, early 20s. But their presence, I think, just made a huge impact, um, on us, growing up.
Yeah, we kinda did, because it was kind of between the Goonies to, like, all that was, like,
Yeah.
our kinda overarching, like, childhood to teenage.
Yeah, I mean, the breakfast movies like The Breakfast Club and, Ferris Bueller's Day Off and, St. Elmo's Fire, I mean, Pretty in Pink, I mean, they were the '80s.
Mhm,
And we grew up in the '80s, and even though we were kids in the '80s, I was born in '84, you were what, '83?
mhm. 6
It's
months. 6 months. I'm only 6 months older.
I love how you had to emphasize that, like, I'm
Well,
only
you
6
keep
months
going well, you keep going, "Well, you're a year older," and I'm like,
Oh my gosh, I've been corrected, okay. I'm sorry. Um, I even though, um, we were, you know, children back then, it was still very iconic for us and very defining. It was, um, and I would hope all of our listeners know who the Brat Pack is, or at least have an idea, but, I'm gonna go over the history and everything.
Well,
The
yeah,
Brat Pack
just
Yeah,
in
I
case if
mean,
we have any youngins out there, they're like,
oh god,
"The
youngins,
Brat Pack."
no, exactly. So the Brat Pack, was a nickname given to a group of young actors, who frequently appeared together, in teen-oriented coming-of-age movies back in the 1980s. Of course, the term Brat Pack, was kind of a play on the Rat Pack, who was a group of suave, debonair guys, back in the, what,
40s
1960s. They were
is
well, I mean, they
40s
were
through
yeah, 40s, 50s, it was Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. and, a few other gentlemen, who were, suave, debonair, they were singers, they were around Vegas all the time and gambling and drinking. They were the cool group. They were they didn't give a shit about anything. The actors, who were well, I guess the writer of the article, was David Bloom, and he is the gentleman who coined the phrase "the Brat Pack." He was interviewing Emilio Estevez, who is Charlie Sheen's brother, older brother, I think,
Mhm.
son
Yep.
of Martin Sheen,
Mhm.
and, at the time, Emilio Estevez was, very up and coming. He was hip. He was, one of the main actors, of the time, teenage actors, well, young actors of the time, and
Translation for those young people, uh like, I know.
Riz, bussin', I don't know, he was bussin', I don't know.
Well, who and I'm like, I don't even know who's in anymore.
I know, I have no idea.
Mm.
But, I mean, so he was doing an article, about, um, Emilio Estevez. At the time, Emilio Estevez was out partying. I think it was with, Judd Nelson and Rob Lowe. And so the journalist, wrote this article, and he termed the coin the Brat Pack. And basically the article, was kind of scathing, in some ways, but it forever lumped the certain group of actors together. Um, and, you know, the what I found interesting was they were not thrilled with the name the Brat Pack at all. They were not very happy. So the name was coined June 10th, 1985. It was about Emilio Estevez, Ali Sheedy was a part of that, Rob Lowe, Demi Moore, Judd Nelson, Andrew McCarthy, Anthony Michael Hall, and Molly Ringwald. They are considered to be the main core group of the Brat Pack. I mean, and
Right,
they
and
were in movies.
if you really think about it too, at that time, they didn't have, like, super teen-centric movies except for, like, a
Exactly, and
few Disney movies in the '60s.
this was exactly. I mean, this was the whole thing. I mean, like, until the early 1980s, there weren't really any, huge teen-centered movies out there. I mean, they were all, like action or featuring adults. I mean, starting in the 1980s, you had movies like The Breakfast Club, Weird Science, St. Elmo's Fire, Pretty in Pink, 16 Candles, The Outsiders. You had, About Last Night, you had Class, you had Taps, you had Red Dawn, you had Footloose, you had The Lost Boys, Some Kind of Wonderful, Young Guns 1 and 2. Like I said, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. You had so many teen-centered movies, and this had never happened before. This was amazing because before the internet, where, and cell phones, we know where now we can just kinda, like, look up and see, like, okay, well, are other teens dealing with angst and bullying and this and that, no one really knew what teens went through, what was happening, what was going on in teenagers' minds, and these movies like The Breakfast Club, I mean, The Breakfast Club is like it's like a counseling session, it really is. I mean, it really resonated with so many kids, so many teenagers of the day because they were like, "Oh my god, I feel like this. Oh my god, I know someone like this. Oh my," and it really resonated with them. I mean, what I found so funny is, the actors who were considered to be part of the Brat Pack did not like being part of the Brat Pack. They felt it was a stigma. They tried to separate themselves from that title. And in essence, they started separating themselves from the other folks in the group. Um, like where they used to hang around together, go to party, they would see each other at parties, things like that. They sort of separated each other, like separated from each other. But what and I guess it was because they felt like, the term brat pack, I mean, they weren't gonna be taken seriously for their work, like, they were I was watching it was so funny, I was watching, uh, a documentary that Andrew McCarthy did, last no, 2 years ago, back in I think it was 2024, called Brats on Hulu, and he was kind of going through the stigma and going through, how kind of traumatic this was for him because he truly feels like that title hurt his career. And Emilio Estevez, he interviewed him, and he felt the same way. And Ali Sheedy, kind of felt that it was like a Schadenfreude, and Schadenfreude is, when someone takes pleasure that's derived from someone else's misfortune. Like she kind of felt like, the journalist was taking pleasure, um in their misfortunes of where of their careers, kind of dwindling. And I mean, I don't know if some of their careers really dwindled. I felt like some of the actors, like Rob Lowe, like, became big no matter what. Um, but I mean, it's they kind of talked about, and kind of, discussed how the Brat Pack term kind of they felt hurt their careers. But as an outsider looking in, I don't think they understood that kids wanted to be a member of the Brat Pack.
Mhm.
Like, they wanted to be in this group of cool kids. I
Right?
mean
Like, we wanted to be in the Mickey Mouse Club.
exactly. We saw, like, these friendships, this tight group of close friends, and you would watch, like, The Breakfast Club or Pretty in Pink, and people could re kids could relate to these characters, they're, "Oh, I'm a ducky," or, "Oh, I wanna be Blaine," or, "Oh, I wanna be," Sam, or they could put themselves into these characters, and they could relate to them, and, even actors who were technically not a part of the Brat Pack, some of them kinda wanted to be a member of the Brat Pack, because there was that idea of that tight, friendship, that close friendship, um, and it meant a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah, and
Um
that and also, though, it did say, "Hey, you're really famous for this," but it's kinda if you think about it now, like Miley Cyrus,
Mhm.
when she was a Disney kid, and then, trying to get outside of being just that Disney kid.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was so, that the legacy, of the name, like I said, the actors themselves were really like, they did an interview on Phil Donahue one time,
Mhm.
and there was a film critic, um, who was a part of the show, and he said, "I would like to apologize on behalf of, my colleagues and for, doing this to you." And of course, like, the kids who were on the show, like, at the time, like, I think Ali Sheedy was there, Rob Lowe was there, I think Amelia was there, and they, clapped and were like, "Thank you, thank you for, apologizing on behalf of, the journalist who wrote this," and they were really hard on David Bloom for coining this term and for lumping them all together into this, you know, group and, stigmatizing them, and making them seem like they didn't really care about their careers and really didn't, um, that they were just kind of half-assing it, that they were bratty kids who weren't taking this seriously. Bloom, kind of responded to that, and he was very unapologetic, saying, "I do have one thing they don't, a job in a magazine, and that entitles me to the freedom of the press." And mentioning that he could not copyright the term Brat Pack, even though he had also written an initial plot for a Brat Pack movie. He was not apologetic at all, like I said, because he felt like, it was yeah, I think he kinda felt like he was gonna get a little more famous for it than he actually ended up doing. The Brat Pack term, though, is it's iconic. You say the Brat Pack, and most people will know at least some of the members, some of the movies. Um, but not a lot of people really remember the name David Bloom.
No.
But, he was actually also interviewed in the documentary that Andrew McCarthy did. And Andrew McCarthy was, like I said, he was a member of the Brat Pack, and, uh, he met up with David Bloom, and, it was an interesting interview, like, to watch them, like, kinda talk with each other, and so, if anyone's interested in the Brat Pack, I definitely recommend if you have Hulu to check it out 'cause, um, it was very interesting. I enjoyed it immensely. So, no, so if you look at different members of the I'm just gonna go over some filmography, and then members of the Brat Pack, um, as well. So, it kind of all started with of I guess officially, The Outsiders, and that was back in 1983, and it had, Matt Dillon and Patrick Swayze and Tom Cruise and C. Thomas Howell and Ralph Macchio, and
You mean the Karate Kid did something else?
yeah, exactly, exactly. So, I mean, that was considered to be kind of like the first movie, although Taps, I think, according to Andrew McCarthy from the documentary Taps, was officially, in his mind, the first because it was centered around, Timothy Hutton. It also had Tom Cruise in it. It also had Sean Penn, um, but it's centered around, uh, Timothy Hutton's character, who was a young kid at the time. And Timothy Hutton actually won an Academy Award for his role in that movie.
Good.
So, um, but it's centered around, like I said, a young kid. So if you're looking at Taps or if you're looking at The Outsiders, it was still the early '80s, and that was kind of like the birth of these teen-oriented movies featuring a lot of the same people. Class was
Yeah.
next, starring John Cusack. 16 Candles, which, of course, had, John Cusack and Jamie Gertz, and it had Molly Ringwald and Matt Dillon, once again from The Outsiders, and, it just, uh, The Breakfast Club, which once, of course, it had Emilio Estevez and Molly Ringwald, and some of these movies, I mean, they're fascinating. Like, they're just
Mhm.
really, like, they were never seen before. Like, what did you think? You saw The Breakfast Club, right?
Yeah, I've seen The Breakfast Club. That's, like, the only one that I really know besides Ferris Bueller's Day Off and The Lost Boys and Stand By Me. Those are the only ones that I really know of because the rest of it is all, like, 90s, like Dead Poet Society,
Yeah.
you know, that was a great one, as well as, like, um, my brain is Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
That was yeah, I mean, that's also, it's question there's so many, like, who's really a part of the of the Brat Pack, well, what movies are really, there's always been, like, who's really, who's in it, what movies are in it. But I mean, there are a lot of, like, a lot of actors who are kind of associated with the Brat Pack. But, yeah, I mean, it's the Breakfast Club, and if no one's ever read it or never ever watched it, The Breakfast Club is about 5 teens who, get detention for some reason or another, and they have to go into the school on a Saturday, on their day off, to, um, serve their detention, their all-day detention. And, you have a jock, you have the strange quiet girl who's, like, gothy, she's, like, all in black.
Me.
You have yeah, you have, like, the bully, you have the preppy girl, who's, like, rich or has more money and you have the studious kid, the kid who's the geek,
The nerdy
the
kid.
the nerdy kid, you know? And so you have these 5 students who are all from all different walks of life, and, they have nothing in common. They would never have talked to each other in school, ever,
Mhm.
you know? And you have them interacting with each other and getting to know each other you know, and that was something that was never done. I mean, John Hughes, was the director. He, um, he wrote the movie, and, he loved working with kids, and he wanted, these young people's perspectives. He wanted to have a movie about how kids feel, how kids think, what goes on in a teenager's mind. And
Mhm.
this was something that had never been done before, you know? Um, you know, talking about like, are they gonna be friends again at school on Monday? Like, I mean, they considered each other friends there in detention, after, toward the end of the movie. But would they really continue to be friends in real life once they went back to school?
Right.
And
And it
some
gave
of the
us the stereotypes too
yeah,
that
yeah.
continued on
But
in each
but it
because, like,
also but it
if you
also
remember,
showed
like
that but yeah,
sorry.
but it also showed that, everyone is weird. That everyone has their weirdness to them. Everyone has everyone, they thought like, they thought, that you knew like the teachers knew who they were. Like, they knew they were the jock, that they knew that they were the bad boy. But I mean, they all had a little bit of jock in them. They all had a little bit of weirdness in them. They all had a little bit of a nut job or, crazy person, studious kid. They were more than what their stereotypes were. That's what the movie was about. That they were
Mhm.
all more than what they appeared to be. And they all realized that about each other. And, it woke a lot of kids up at the time because they were like, "Oh my god, it's not just me that, feels left out and out of place," and because, I mean, like I said, I mean, kids nowadays, you can, go to the internet on your phone and look up, like, bullying statistics or, am I weird if I feel like this or am I, and they can see that other kids, are going through the same things. They're dealing with the same emotions or dealing with the same, but you couldn't do that back in the 80s, you know?
Right, we could
And,
barely even do that in the '90s, because
exactly.
I'm like, our version also was, like, Clueless or even
Exactly.
Mean Girls.
Well, I mean, you couldn't do a whole lot of, research, real life research, real time research. And then with 16 Candles, like, I love that movie because 16 Candles, and once again, that's Molly Ringwald, Matt Dillon, Anthony Michael Hall, who was, you know, Christmas and, Vacation, National Lampoon's Vacation. But, in 16 Candles, Molly Ringwald plays a girl who's turning 16, and her parents forget her about her birthday because they're so busy with her sister, her older sister who's getting married.
Mhm,
And so she feels neglected, she feels ignored, she feels invisible. Um, she likes the hot guy at school, the jock who, like, of course, we all had those crushes in school who,
mhm.
and, she's like, "There's no way that he'd ever, like me," and, but it's so cool, and then, like, there's, like, the nerdy kid who's Anthony Michael Hall who has a crush on Molly Ringwald's character. It just it really it's just one of those movies where, like, you feel like there's a kid who feels ignored by and invisible to her parents. I mean, that wasn't done back then,
No,
I mean, that wasn't even
and,
imagined.
the funny thing, I mean, I've seen bits and pieces of 16 Candles, but my version would be 14 Candles because I actually had that happen.
No
My
way.
my birth well, get this, my mom got married, let's see, the 16th, so, 1 week after my 14th birthday,
So she was planning on that, she was planning that and completely forgot your 14th birthday.
pretty much.
Is that oh god.
So, like,
So
I
you've had that
totally
happen.
yeah,
So you know. Oh, wow. That's sad. That's sad, holy crap. Um,
yeah, well, we can just add it to a long list of a lot of things, so
yeah. And then, Stayed Almost Fire is I mean, I've honestly not it's not one of my favorite movies, um, but it is a coming of age movie, um, directed by Joel Schumacher.
hold on,
Great director.
you're breaking up, you're breaking up, you're breaking up.
Okay,
Alright, I can hear you now. Okay,
okay.
you were
So
breaking up.
Saint okay. So St. Elmo's Fire is not one of my favorite movies, but it has it stars a lot of the same people as Breakfast Club. Emilio Estevez, Andrew McCarthy, Ali Sheedy, Molly Ringwald, Judd Nelson, and then also has Demi Moore, Rob Lowe, Andrew McCarthy, and Mayor Winningham. And it's it centers on, like, a clique of recent graduates, um, from Georgetown University and their adjustment to, like, post-college life, and the responsibilities of adulthood. And, it's a very good movie. It was a huge box office hit, um, but it tackles, I think, a lot of serious topics, about, like, what's it like to be an adult, when you're coming from, 18, 19, 20, and now you're in your early 20s. Like I said, it's a very iconic movie, but it's not one of my favorites just because it is kind of well, I should say, when I watched it, it was, um, kind of I was in more of an idealistic phase, more romantic phase, and, like, there's breakups, because there's the reality of, you know, people who are together in relationships in college, and will they last forever? Some don't. Um, and at that point on time, I was like, "Oh, no, I don't want them to break up. This is" So, but it is a good movie, and I do highly recommend it, if you get a chance to watch it. But,
Yeah, I haven't watched it, so
yeah, I mean, so like I said, there are a lot of other movies, some kind of wonderful. Well, let's go with Pretty in Pink first, because Pretty in Pink, um, I think is probably one of my favorite movies because I love Ducky. I don't know, if you have you ever seen Pretty in Pink?
not that I can recollect.
Okay. So, in Pretty in Pink, once again, Molly Ringwald and, Annie Potts is in it, and John Cryer, and Andrew McCarthy. And it's that classic love triangle, poor girl from, on the other side of the tracks, um, goes to school with, rich, these rich guys, these rich kids, and so of course she's, has a single and honestly, um, not another teen movie kind of riffed on, uh,
Now
Pretty in
that I
Pink.
know.
Yeah. As well as, of course, She's All That. But,
Mhm.
it was the whole, like, um Andy is Molly Ringwald's character. She's, poor girl. Her dad is jobless, looking for work. Her mom ran off, and, her best friend is Ducky. Ducky is very into Andy, and, Andy just sees him as a friend, and Andy likes Blaine. Blaine is the good-looking, kind, shy, rich guy at school, one of them. His best friend is, an asshole, played by, shut my brain is going blank. The guy from, James Spader. Ooh.
Mm.
So James Spader plays the asshole rich friend of Andrew McCarthy, and Andrew McCarthy likes Andy. And of course, it's like, James Spader's character is like, "Oh, well, you can't like her. She's trash." But James Spader actually wants her. He digs her. He likes Andy. But she sees him for who he is. She's like, "You're an ass. Why would I ever wanna be with you?" And so he discourages Blaine from wanting to be with her because he can't get her. And it's I really like that movie, although she does and I don't wanna spoil it, she does end up going with someone I wasn't sure if she should, um, but apparently the ending of the movie, when it was played originally, it was booed. It was not well liked, and so they ended up changing the ending of the movie, so that she ends up with the person the audience really felt that she should.
Right.
And and that's not a bad thing. I mean, it was a good movie. I enjoyed the movie. But I did feel for the character that she did not choose. Um, I felt really badly, and, because he really liked her, and, so they ended up doing, uh, I think it was John Hughes, ended up kind of making up for that movie by doing Some Kind of Wonderful, and that movie kind of is about the same thing. It's that love triangle, 2 girls, 1 guy, and this time, the guy ends up with it's the opposite of Pretty in Pink. So, if you know the movie Some Kind of Wonderful and who he ends up with, maybe you kinda know, but so, yeah, I liked it, but once again, uh, just very iconic movies and just the Brat Pack and, the '80s really, really, really kind of just came across as just very, very teen-centric movies and very, like, they were the hip thing, the in thing. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Ferris Bueller's
Now
Day
that
Off.
one I love. I love
I
that movie.
mean, that was I think everyone I mean, like, Deadpool. Deadpool nowadays, I mean, he riffed that a little bit, with the end scene, with the shower and everything. But I mean, once
Well,
again,
it
I
was
mean, you
also
have
in Easy A, the shower
mhm,
in Easy A.
mhm,
That was done as well.
yep. So,
The
I
part where,
mean, but,
"I got a pocket full of sunshine, I got a love that I know that it's all mine, oh."
But yeah, I mean, you have Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Matthew Broderick, and you have Jennifer Grey, and you have Charlie Sheen who made a cameo in it. And actually, it was Jennifer Grey who got Charlie Sheen into that movie. Um, so, she was kinda like, "Hey, I have a part here in this movie. Would you be interested?" But I mean, and of course Jennifer Grey and Matthew Broderick were dating at the time, but, yeah, I mean, it's once again, this whole movie centered around a teenager skipping school and being the luckiest SOB on the planet, by the way. And his girlfriend and his best friend, and they just have, that whole they play hooky and, the adults are there, the parents are there, but they're in the background once again, and, you have it was classic. They were classic movies. And then so I do wanna go over, um, a list of associated Brat Pack members. Um, there's always been, like I said, debate about, like, who's kind of in the Brat Pack, who's associated, what movies are associated. Like I said, the main core group, of course, were Amelia Estevez, Ali Sheedy, Rob Lowe, Demi, Moore, Jen Nelson, Andrew McCarthy, Anthony Michael Hall, and Molly Ringwald. But associated members were James Spader, Robert Downey Jr., John Cryer, John Cusack, Joan Cusack, Maren Winningham, Broderick, Tom Cruise, Timothy Hutton, Matt Dillon, Nick Cage, Sean Penn, Matthew Modine, Charlie Sheen, Kevin Bacon, because you got Footloose, don't forget Footloose, Kiefer Sutherland, Julia Roberts, Michael J. Fox, Leah Thompson, T. Thomas Howell, Jennifer Grey, Eric Stoltz, Jamie Gertz, Corey Feldman, Corey Haim, Diane Lane, Patrick Swayze, Ralph Macchio, and Sarah Jessica Parker. So you got a
Well, I mean,
nice you got a nice variety of actors there who, now John Cryer in the documentary that I was watching, he was like, I'm not a member of the Brat Pack. He's like, "I'm not a member." But I mean, if you look at, like, Britannica, like, if you look at certain sites online, like that was it IMDb or IMBD, whatever it is, um, these folks will be listed as members who are considered to be in the Brat Pack, a part of the Brat Pack, um, because of how often they were in these movies together.
Right,
Um,
and especially because they were
but
in a lot of these coming of age, in teen
mhm,
years, not
yeah. I mean, Fast
and
Times
then
at Ridgemont, Sean Penn, I mean, that's
mhm,
was huge, you know? So, and Nick
Clueless.
Cage and yeah, yeah. But, Footloose, I mean, oh my god, I mean, seriously, Footloose,
Mhm.
amazing. Yeah, I mean, did you hear that, Kevin Bacon was actually asked to go back to the high school where they, like, filmed at because I guess they were tearing it down or something, and they wanted him to be there at their last prom, and he
Hmm,
agreed.
yeah,
I thought it was so cool. I thought that was so cool. But, it made the news. I mean, well, it made, like, it made news. But, yeah, so I had to share. Brat Pack has just been, and their movies have just been so iconic, and they really, they
they
really
started
shaped, yeah, where we are today, I feel like. We're teens, and I think, from there, it just kinda built, like, then that's what we have, like you said, movies like, Clueless, that are centered around teens, in the '90s, and, you have other movies, and they were really, an integral part of that coming of age of our coming of age and of that time, and I had to talk about them. It's so
Yeah,
exciting.
I mean, of course, the when you mentioned the Brat Pack, I'm like, "Oh, Breakfast Club." I knew
Yeah,
Pretty in Pink, haven't seen it, but or at least not that I
yeah,
remember, but, and it's just that the thing is too is, like, that was those years where I was still a toddler, you know?
yeah, yeah,
So they didn't make as much as of an impact on me except for Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I just loved it because I, as a Scorpio, would love to run amok.
mhm,
But, considering the fact that my teen years were spent in a town that was under 1,000 people, I still think they're counting cows as people in it. I couldn't do something like that. I couldn't skip and just go run off somewhere without everybody else knowing.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think, if you talk about the Brat Pack, um, I think most people will know, okay, and they'll know at least someone from the Brat Pack. I mean, even though the actors themselves were not thrilled with that term and, being lumped together like that, I think those of us, non-actors, those of us who weren't in the Brat Pack, look at it as being a cool group of kids who, I mean, I don't know, I mean, you look at them and you're like, "Oh, that's so cool," I mean, I think to us, it wasn't a negative, I mean, to us, it
Mhm.
wasn't, I mean, it's still not a negative, I mean, when I hear, Brat Pack, I don't have any negative connotation to it, I mean, I'm like, "Oh, that's good," and I feel badly that they feel like that affected their careers and their lives, but, um,
Out for a while.
yeah, I mean,
The only thing I can think, like, Emilio Estevez, like, would be The Mighty Ducks.
yeah, I mean, and I know he's been in things since that, I mean, but I mean, I mean, I know, like, some actors, like Andrew McCarthy, I don't really know if he did a whole lot. I mean, I know they made guest appearances, things like that. I mean, Ali Sheedy was in, maybe a few things. Molly Ringwald kind of, but I mean, you have other people like Demi Moore who obviously made it big. Rob Lowe
Mhm.
made it big. Patrick Swayze was doing really good until he got sick. I mean, Phoebe
R.I.P.
Cattell, yeah. Yeah. I mean, yes, I mean, you had people, I mean, but look at Sean Penn, Nick Cage, John Cusack. John Cusack did do, I mean, Robert Downey Jr., I mean, he had a great career.
Mm, yeah.
But I mean, like Judd Nelson, I mean, like, like Anthony Michael Hall, I mean, they really didn't have, I guess, I mean, and I don't like, once again, I don't know their filmography like crazy, but, you know, yeah, I mean,
But
I guess.
the only thing that we can really compare it to has been, like, um, either being a Nickelodeon kid or a Disney kid,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
I mean, even still
It's
to
that
this day, like,
that
All That was one of
stigma.
my favorite shows.
Yeah.
Is like, I love Keenan and Kel, and anytime I see either of them, I just wanna be like, "Welcome to Good Burger," or,
Yeah, I mean, but they're always gonna kinda be remembered for being a Disney kid,
Mhm,
or being now if you break from that status, like Miley Cyrus, she kinda broke away from Hannah Montana, and she became, a big pop star. Um, so, I mean, like, honestly, when I think of Miley Cyrus, I don't really think of Hannah Montana anymore. I think of, "Oh, wow," like Wrecking Ball, or I think of her, broken relationship with, the Hemsworth, whichever Hemsworth it was.
Liam.
You know? I don't think of Hannah Montana.
Mhm,
But I mean, I think you're right. I mean, if it's, when you're in that, stigma, I mean, like, people look at you in a certain way. Like, look at, what was her name? Well, I mean, well, first of all, you have Lindsay Lohan. Lindsay Lohan was a
mhm,
Disney star. Um, and that kind of, you had to keep that good girl image. And of course, she didn't. And like got drugs involved and things like that. I mean, that really hurt her career.
mhm.
But I mean, she's back now. Yay. She has made a comeback, which I'm really proud that she did that 'cause I did like her. Um,
Yes.
but
Well, that
Amanda
and also
Bynes.
it's also a lot of stigma though too for girls who are in that position because people don't want them to grow up. And the unfortunate thing is all little girls grow up. Nobody stays a little girl forever.
And you look at Millie Bobby Brown in Stranger Things.
Mhm,
Now, this is not a Disney, or Nickelodeon, but Millie Bobby Brown is older now, and I don't think people see that. She has talked about how, you know, people have been shaming her for being more
mhm,
sexualized, for looking more sexy and she's like, "People, I am, 20, whatever, however old she is." She's like, "I'm an adult. I
right.
can look like this. I can," but,
Exactly. She also had the same thing too where people were complaining that now she looks old. And she's like,
exactly,
"Hello, I am an
exactly, and
adult."
exactly, and people were, like, almost shaming her for, looking, having her cleavage showing, whatever, looking sexy and stuff, and,
Mhm.
um, so but yeah, it's
And so that's something that has also come out of that as well, is that everybody kinda just expected them to stay in the same roles and the same type of things,
yeah,
and now, I mean, they're, what, about the same age as my parents? My parents,
yeah,
some of
yeah,
the
they're,
most of these people were all born in the '60s,
late 50s, early 60s, yeah.
and so, and so they can't so when they do things, yes, of course, they still are adults, but they haven't been able to crawl out of that little.
Yeah, and Andrew McCarthy kinda said the same thing in the documentaries that, like, he was hoping to be able to talk to, like, Molly Ringwald, but Molly Ringwald was kind of just wanting to look forward and not look back, and not really revisit everything and that was kinda like, that disappointed me because I feel like, I feel like you need to talk about things sometimes and just move on. But, I just yeah, I mean, that stigma, it's gonna follow them no matter what. I mean, the Brat Pack is not going away. Um, but I feel like maybe, if maybe the documentary hopefully was a little cathartic and hopefully was, able to get them to talk about it a little bit more and maybe, resolve it in their minds a little bit more. Um, because I mean, it was interesting because I mean, he talked to writers and stuff who, the us, and the folks in the real world,
Mhm,
who said, just what it meant to them, what the Brat Pack meant to them, that it wasn't anything negative, that it was, this cool club that people loved, that people wanted to be a part of, that, you know, um, that and so he was kind of because he got to see different perspectives, and he's like, "Oh, wow," and so I really hope that it is, maybe a little more healing for them, but I don't know.
Right.
But yeah.
Brava. That's made me think about some things that I haven't seen before. But of course, when I think of Tom Cruise, the only one of the movies that I can think of is
Risky business.
Legend, besides Top Gun, is Legend,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because I'm that weird fantasy person.
Well, and like I said, I mean, the whole, like, risky business thing, I mean, that was, '83 and, the iconic underwear sliding down the halls, I mean, that has
Uh,
been, ripped so many times.
but
But,
that's the only thing I know about that movie.
that's true. That is the only thing I know. I've never actually seen that movie, you know, but, I should, I mean, because it's an '80s classic, but
Yeah, but you know what? If I'm gonna watch an '80s classic, I'm going to watch The Goonies, or I'm going to watch Willow, because I love the part with the goat, "Willow, you idiot," and the
I mean,
brownies in Willow.
there are definitely so many, um, so many classic '80s movies.
But then again, I we were toddlers in the '80s, so what else are we going to really, um, go to? We're gonna go to, um, the the movies that we know, Care Bears, Rainbow Bright, uh,
At that point in
yeah.
time, yes, yes, when we were, what, 80 in '86, '87, Disney. Disney was huge, for me.
Mhm.
Adventures in Wonderland, I mean, that was, like, in the '90s, but I mean, I did Care Bears and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I did. Love that show. I wasn't yeah, I mean, I was not definitely watching Breakfast Club when it came out.
Caught it on TMC, Turner Classic Movies.
Oh, don't say that. Don't say that. Makes me feel old. Turner Classic Movies. Like, when I
Well,
think of movies on TCM, I think of, like, I don't know, like, from the 1940s. I don't
Gone with
think
the
of, like,
Wind.
yeah, I don't think of, The Breakfast Club. Oh god.
Well,
But,
in the early 2000s, it was. That they were playing everything from the '80s and everything. Because I remember with watching if I could get away with watching something on the satellite TV, because I was not allowed technically to watch TV. I had my own little TV that got the over the air, not satellite TV. So, um, but I would either if they had musicals on, or I would be watching MTV Freeform, or, um, VH1.
so you were a big MTV fan and music. Music was, I
It
think,
was m music
very
was the big
important to
thing for
you.
me.
Yeah,
Yes.
music was very important to you. It wasn't as important to me growing up. Mine was more of TV, fantasy, escapism. Like, that was my escapism. Yours was music. Um,
Mhm.
because I
Because
remember thinking,
I didn't have as much, because I lived in a tiny little town. There was no internet, and any kind of, like, because so I moved when I was 13 to Idaho, to my small little town. Literally, there was, what, 40 kids I graduated with? Something like that? So, what information were we gonna get besides from, like, if you were able to get satellite, or if you were close enough in town to possibly get cable? And then, um and then I read books. Those were the only things I was able to watch TV, like MTV and stuff like that. But, of course, I was also a huge Will and Grace fan, because that's what I could get over the air. And that was the best channel I could get over the air, was NBC. So I watched a lot of NBC, but I never got into Friends, so
yeah, I Friends and Seinfeld, I did not understand when I was growing up, when they came out because I think they were a little above my head at that time.
Mhm. Yeah, and so, like, the only time I ever got to experience anything outside of little old Idaho was when I came out to visit family in the summers. So and that's when I finally got to I got introduced to Buffy from my aunt, um, and any, like, scary movies or anything like that. Like, I watched Tremors at my aunt's house, and I hated that movie so much. It scared me so much, like, I literally taught myself how to be, like, the quietest walker ever. So, like, I scare people, and I'm like, "Sorry." They're like, "I would never think."
You're like a
Yeah,
ninja when you walk.
yeah, because 'cause I'm not gonna get tremоred. I'm not gonna get eaten by those things. No way, Jose. And then, the original Fright Night, that one, I had nightmares about the mouths because I didn't get no. So, but yeah, I mean, and so, like, those movies were, like, the only things that we ever had.
Yeah.
And also, like, I
Yeah.
wasn't allowed to watch a lot of things.
You were very limited. Yeah, you were very limited. Now I had my parents were they loved movies. They were very into movies. Um, and so I got, I think, a lot more experience, a lot more exposure with things than you did, um, because of that. But, I mean, my parents were also into older movies. So, that's probably why I like older movies as well as, as well as new movies. But, I mean, like, I can name, you know, tons of black and white movies that my husband like is like, "What the?" Yeah. It's like, "Hey, I love black and white movies." My kids hate them. They're like, "Ah, it's black and white." I'm like, "Dude, black and white movies, they're good. Give it a chance."
Right? Yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah.
I spun the wheel. You ready?
Dun, dun, dun. Okay.
Okay, that was so apropos because you got true crime.
Oh my god, yeah. Awesome. I know what I'm gonna do. I know what I'm gonna do already.
Well then.
I and I'll say what I'm gonna do because I know there was a well, I mean, a heinous crime that happened in Ephrata, and it really hit close to home for us because obviously Ephrata was our hometown. Not a lot of stuff happened in Ephrata, Pennsylvania. We had this heinous murder happen, the summer of 2001, which was like, and then of course I graduated in 2002, and it involved a member of my class, my graduating class. And it was incredibly shocking, incredibly, and I really wanna I was always fascinated by it, but I think I really wanna kinda delve into it a little bit. Yeah,
And
I'm excited.
next week I have pop culture and
Any hints on it, or are you still staying mum?
I don't know because I'm just gonna say it because like I'm one of those people like I'm Scorpio by nature and from a line of Scorpios, like literally my mom's grandmother was a Scorpio, my dad was a Scorpio, my mom's mom was a Scorpio, I'm a Scorpio, so I come from a long line of Scorpios.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna do a TV show that has
Oh,
me literally by the throat. I
okay.
love this show. Now, I've only s
I lie. Okay, I have an idea, go ahead.
You have an idea?
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about the traitors. You're like, "It's not Buffy?
Okay.
You're not going over Buffy?"
I was thinking Buffy or Angel when you said by the throat because vampires, I was
No,
thinking for sure.
I will save that for another time,
Okay. Okay.
or it's something that we can rewatch
Yes. That is
since we
definitely
both
something
have
that,
watched that.
yes.
But,
Yes.
for me, no, it's traitors. It's this it's I don't do much reality TV,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
this has got murder, mystery, backstabbing, like everything a Scorpio needs. All the drama, and I get to sit back and watch it. So, and that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna talk about the traitors. Now there's a couple different versions. I only have access to the UK and the US versions, and I'm on season 3 of the US traitors, and I love it so much. Like, I was literally watching it right
so
before we got
is
on.
is this a newer show or
Yeah, yeah. It's
okay.
on
Okay.
Peacock,
Okay.
so you can watch it on Peacock, and I love it, and I'm just like, "No!" Like,
So
I
it's
always side with the traitors.
okay. Well, I am not gonna ask about it. I don't wanna I don't I wanna find out more about it next week, so I'm not gonna ask anything about it. I'm not gonna look it up. I wanna wait till, until you can talk about it because then, once I hear what you have to say, then I'll check it out. But I wanna hear it. So, awesome. I have so many questions. I'm so intrigued, but I'm gonna wait. I'm
Believe
gonna
me,
wait.
I love it. I love it for so many reasons, and you'll find out,
Okay.
next week.
Okay. Awesome.
So,
Awesome. Sweet. Okay. Looking
and with
forward to it.
that yes, so with
Ugh,
that, our lovely
yes.
nerdlings, if that's what you guys
Wrap
wanna
it
be
up.
called, nerdlings, weirdos, randos, let us
Ooh, I like
know
random.
what you
I
think.
like nerdling too. Yeah, let us know, what you think if you ever seen, the a Brat Pack movie or if you have any opinions on the Brat Pack or what's your favorite Brat Pack movie or if maybe my episode has inspired you to watch a Brat Pack movie like Breakfast Club or anything like that. Just, let us know. Let us know what you think, how you feel.
Yes,
You're
please.
definitely
You
anti
know,
Brat Pack.
we want we wanna know what you guys are thinking, what you feel, if you have any ideas on what we should do next for any of our topics, which are history, random, true crime, pop culture, current events, myths and legends, and paranormal. Am I missing one? Oh, whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're talking about cooking, but yeah. I mean, we'll talk about anything.
Mhm.
Politics,
And
we'll talk anything.
and we want to build a community of all of our
Safe
nerdlings,
space.
our
Okay.
of thinkers and shakers and movers, and so you can reach out to us on Facebook. We've got our So Random and Weird podcast page that we have a weekly thread for this week's episode. We also have our email, which is so random and weird pod at gmail.com. We're also on Instagram at so random and weird pod. You can catch us anywhere. You can share us with your friends, and I guess we'll see you guys next week.
Good. Bye,
Mm,
everybody. Thank
Love you,
you.
nerdlings.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.